Good afternoon. I had a couple individuals in the back here ask me if we could dim the lights and I could speak really low for the next 20 minutes for them. But I assured them we wouldn't do that for them. So as Dan said, my name is Lyndon Vogt. I'm the General Manager of the Central Platte NRD. I'm going to visit with you a little bit about kind of a groundbreaking project that the Central Platte NRD has been working on the last couple of years on some conjunctive management issues with 4 canals in the western part of our district. This is about a 40-minute presentation that I'm going to do in about 20 minutes, so we're going to run right through here. I promise you I'm not going to take you back the 10 years when LB 962 became law, but it is worth mentioning that we could have not done this project if it wouldn't have been for LB 962 and the integrated management planning that it required us to do. But as a result of LB 962, the western part of the Platte River above Elm Creek in Nebraska, was determined to be over-appropriated. And I realize that almost everyone here is well aware of that. But the Central Platte is just the eastern maybe 40 miles of this red area on here that I'm going to talk about today in Dawson County. I don't know that I have a pointer that I can will work or not here, but anyway, the over-appropriated area, as you all know, has to get back to a fully appropriated status. So meaning we have to put water back to the river in that area. What are our Central Platte's water requirements? In the over-appropriated area, just in the Central Platte area, we have to get back to the 1997 level in the first increment. That first increment ends in 2019. It was a 10-year increment. We have to put 3,400 acre-feet of water back to the Platte River by 2019. We also know there's going to be future increments. Once we get back to that level, we know we're going to have to put at least 17,000 acre-feet of more water back to the river that'll get us beyond 1997. You really can't talk about this without mentioning Nebraska's new depletion plan. To shorten this up, I took a lot of the 962 slides and the new depletion plan slides out, but the dates are relevant here because in Nebraska's new depletion plan, it also talks about uses that began before July 97 are grandfathered in. Uses that were started between 97 and 05 have to be offset by the NRD is what it amounts to. And uses began after January 1st, 2006 have to be offset by the required offsets. The offsets are required up front, I guess is how to say that. Whoever is creating them offsets or creating that new use has to supply the offset. So there's actually 3 different time frames that we deal with, and our IMP deals with them same time frames as the Nebraska New Depletions Plan. So we talked about the over-appropriated area a little bit within Nebraska and backing up the train, so to say, I guess, putting water back in the river. And as a result of that, we have to look at our options. How are we going to do that? As Central Platte board members, they have to decide how do we want to do that. So, you know, I think they really felt they had 4 options. We could reduce all irrigated acres equally to reduce consumptive use. We could just tell everyone we're cutting all irrigated acres 10% or 20%, whatever the case may be, to put water back in the river. We do have just over 1 million irrigated acres in our district and about 22,000 irrigation wells. The next option, of course, is to meter and allocate water. Our district is roughly 150 miles from east to west. When I say 10 inches is our current crop irrigation requirement, that's a little deceiving. It probably varies from 8 to 11 actually within our district. So if we were going to meter and allocate, you certainly wouldn't have one allocation district wide to treat everyone the same to put water back in the river. Plus it doesn't necessarily put water back in the river where we need it. So the third option they talked about is retiring irrigated acres, willing seller, willing buyer. And we did do some of that I'll touch on a little later here. But our preferred method was conjunctively management of surface water and groundwater. We were fortunate enough to have 4 privately owned surface water canal companies, or irrigation districts, in the western part of our district. All of them were in our over-appropriated area. We decided in working with these that These canals actually provide groundwater recharge that enhances our surface water flows and protects our groundwater supplies. They provide enhanced flows to the Platte River by diverting and retiming excess flows to the river if they're managed properly. And they provide enhanced flows to the Platte River by returning natural flow irrigation rights to the river. And they increase our flows to the river with no retirement of irrigation, no retirement of acres. And I think through this process that we don't talk about very much is the fact that we kept everyone whole in this process as we went through this. I know I'm going through this fast, I apologize for that, but we had 4 canals that we dealt with. The very first one was the 6 Mile Canal. It was a small canal that serviced about 1,666 acres. It had actually had a water right since 1894. We purchased them and closed them. There was only one landowner on that canal that did not have a groundwater well. We allowed him to put in a groundwater well. We converted, so that entire system then was converted to groundwater. We transferred them surface rights to the 30-mile irrigation district, which I'll show you a map in a minute, so that'll make a little more sense. That 30-mile actually sat away from the river just a little bit further than the 6-mile, so we could get our recharge back to that 6-mile canal through the 30-mile. We signed management agreements with the other 3. Actually, we purchased 50% of one more and signed management agreements with the other 2. But in these management agreements and our purchase agreements, these were only really moved forward because we agreed to rehabilitate their entire canal, their existing canals, in exchange for use of them canals for conjunctive management of our surface water and our groundwater. This is actually a picture of the canals. Clear up in the left-hand corner to the south is the 30-mile irrigation district just south of Brady. That's I-80 and the Platte River that runs right through there. You can see the 30-mile canal there is about 36 miles long. Thank you, Ken. So the 30-mile canal starts right here. Brady, Nebraska sets about right here. It's roughly 36 miles long to the end. Orchard Alfalfa, or Southside Irrigation District, sets right here. The 6-mile canal that we closed actually ran about right in this area here. And this is the Cozad Canal. This is Gothenburg. This is the city of Cozad. Lexington sets just right outside of the picture there. So just to kind of give everybody an idea of where we're at. The first one I'm going to talk about is the Cozad Ditch Company. The Cozad Ditch Company had an 1894 water right for 16,000 acres. We have a 30-year management agreement with the Cozad Ditch Company. Our agreement to rehabilitate their canal required us to put in, we did 27 miles of clearing and grading. These canals had not done a tremendous amount of maintenance in the last 100 years. There was a lot of they were overgrown, a lot of trees on them. We went in and cleared and graded them structures. We put in 13 new structures, 22 walkways, 11 Rubicon gates, and a SCADA system for about $6.5 million. This canal is as modern of a canal as there is. We can operate this canal from any device that we have internet access on. So we do have a manager out at Cozad that oversees this canal, but we can also we can look at what water's coming into this system, 3 or 4 spots throughout the canal, and what we're losing on the end of this canal. We can see it real time from our office 100 miles away. Again, this is just the Cozad Ditch Company, just the Cozad Gothenburg area, just north of the interstate, north of the Platte River. This is just a picture of their original head gates. These are their head gates today. And the next picture actually is just of the return that we put in. And I'll touch more on this in a minute, but we divert their natural flow, and it is actually measured, and the consumptive use portion of that would have been to crops is going back to the river through the return right here through a Rubicon gate, which is measured and returned to the river, but just the consumptive use, and I'll touch on that in a little bit. The Orchard Alfalfa Canal has an 1898 water rate for about 4,300 acres. We also have a 30-year management agreement with them. This project is actually just winding up. I believe our completion date on this is in the next, within the next couple of weeks. We'll be completely done with this project. The other ones are already all finished. This project involves 11.4 miles of clearing and grading, 20 new structures. We removed some farm crossing. We only put in 2 Rubicon gates on this system of just under $4.7 million. We have a Rubicon gate at the headworks of this system, so we can return natural flow to the river. And there's actually only one spillway or one return on this system, and we also have a Rubicon gate on that return, so we know what we're losing out of this system. And we've also worked with USGS on all these canals to assist us in recharge rates in different reaches of the canals, so we know what we're losing within each reach that's going back to groundwater. Again, this is the Orchard Alfalfa Canal just south of Cozad. This was the old head gates at this canal. They were in fairly bad shape, to be quite honest with you. These are our new ones. This is the river return. These are the head gates going into the canal. About probably almost 25% of the total cost of this project went into these headworks. They were about to wash down the river, is kind of the bottom line. They either needed to be rehabbed or done away with. This is just a picture of kind of a before and during and after picture of the rehab that we did on these canals. As you can see, they're brand new canals with brand new structures in them. The 30-mile irrigation district was one of the younger districts, had a 1928 water right for approximately 15,000 acres. We purchased 50% interest in this canal. We paid them $1.9 million for half of their water rights, half of their equipment, lock, stock, and barrel, I guess. 50% of everything they owned we purchased from them, and we inherited 2 full-time staff when we did that are now NRD staff. This project involves 26 miles of clearing and grading, 39 new structures. We also have 2 Rubicon slip meters in this system for about $5 million for the rehab on this system. Again, 30-mile sets south of the head gates are just south of Brady, runs south of Gothenburg, Cozad River return just a little bit east. Here is their these are their head gates. We didn't have to do anything with the head gates. They had actually been washed out in about 1984 and replaced, so they were fairly new in the system. This is where our 2 Rubicon slip meters are installed. We actually ended up having to take water before we got them slip meters installed. Here's a picture with them of them installed, and that little dike with the grass on is actually no longer there. We'd put a dike around there because we were taking water prior to getting them slip meters in last summer. So how's this process work? The landowners that have the surface water rights have the right to either use that water or relinquish that surface water back to the irrigation district or back to the NRD, which is one and the same in this instance. If they decide not to use it and relinquish it, give it up altogether, don't want to use it anymore, the Central Platte NRD actually reassigns it to acres within our canal service area. We have to reassign them rights to acres that we can serve with that canal. The landowners can use surface water rights, or they can temporarily transfer them back to the canal if they think they're going to want to use them in the future. Nebraska statutes allows them to temporarily transfer them up to 30 years. So we've had a number of landowners transfer them rights back to us. We do all the paperwork. The Central Platte NRD, our staff does the paperwork, files it with the state of Nebraska, and then we sell the consumptive use of that natural flow. We have contracts with the Platte River Program and with 2 other NRDs for approximately exactly 23,500 acre-feet of water right now that we sell to help us pay for the rehab that we done on these canals. We split everything 50-50 with the canals that we've worked with. I'm going to back up because I'll probably get this question anyway. We only sell the consumptive use portion. So if a landowner temporarily transfers their surface water right back to us, we are taking the consumptive use portion of that right, diverting it from the river, measuring it, and putting it back in the river when flows are below U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service target flows. We're putting that water back to the river, but only the consumptive use portion. The non-consumptive use portion is still going that canal and still being recharged into groundwater like it would have been if that crop would have been watered. How did we pay for these projects? Nebraska Department of Natural Resources paid for 40%, Nebraska Environmental Trust 20%. The other 40% was shared equally between the Central Platte and each of the canals. What do we expect to gain from this project? Here's kind of the bottom line. We started with, we have to put water back to the river. What's these projects do for us? We spent $6.1 million, and on average, we should be able to put about 25,000 acre feet of water back to the river. This is the 17,000 to the 49,000 is kind of the low and the high. We think that them are very, actually based on the number of acres that are being temporarily transferred back to us, we kind of expect it to be towards the high side of these numbers moving forward. We also are looking at some future projects with the canals to enhance flow. On the 30-mile irrigation district, we just received an excess flow permit last week. Our reason for spending the money to assist them in rehabilitation was to be able to use them for conjunctive management. We want to be able to capture anytime there's excess flows. Excess would be above U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service target flows. We can capture into these canals, recharge on that through that canal system. The largest two are both slightly over 30 miles long. So we're capturing them excess flows, we're recharging groundwater, we're retiming that water back to the river. And we're also looking at potentially putting a recharge cell in along the canal somewhere to take advantage of we don't see extremely excess flows very often, but we do at times. And so we are in some conversations with some partners to possibly put some detention cells or some recharge cells in along these canals as well. So this is just kind of a picture that shows you kind of what's happened over the last 100 years with these canals. They're as good as new. So I know I ran through that pretty fast. I'd be happy to answer any questions. The 130 acre feet was the difference between them guys taking direct appropriations out of the river and using groundwater. So the groundwater is not a direct appropriations. When they're using surface water, it's a direct appropriation from the river, and it's an immediate effect. Where if they're using groundwater, they're still in effect on the river, but it's less of an effect than a direct appropriation of surface water. So that 134 acre feet was a result of changing them from a surface water to a groundwater system.
Okay, and then so there needs to be some recharge for that groundwater that's taken. Does that get provided out of the 6 mile?
It does. We actually transferred their right then to the 30 mile canal, which sets south of them. 6 mile is between 30 mile and the Platte River. So the loss out of the 30 mile canal returns back to the Platte and actually recharges where the 6 mile was. So we're getting that recharge but from a different canal. Yes. Yes?
This Platte River Recovery Program came about in the process of getting a permit to relight the paint. The history behind it?
I think that's probably a fair statement. That's where it started, yeah.
Has anybody ever made an estimate of what the total cost this is going to be? Up till now, you know, but there's more increments in the future.
You know, I have no idea what the total cost is. There may be someone that does. If there is someone that does, he's right here, Don Krause.
Well, the estimate for the Platte River program was $300 million, rough numbers. $150 million from the Fed, $150 million from the 3 states. And so the states, however, got credit for water projects. And so their actual cash is less than $150. And in the process of that credit, the environmental county like McConaughey was credited to Nebraska, and their cost was 0 on the Platte program. Just a big number.
Right. Nebraska's cost was zero. Nebraska's cost was water back to the river. No hard dollars. Right. You know, when all of our recharge is over a 50-year time horizon, so we're tracking that. If we do, this whole process started in 2011 with the excess flows and capturing some of them excess flows and doing them studies and the loss studies at that time. And so we actually track them over a 50-year time frame. The majority of that, of course, is coming back probably the first 3 years, you know what I mean? And then it gets to be a pretty small amount. The majority of the time, the river is not above U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service target flows. So there could be some return when them flows are above that, but it would be a very small amount. Thank you.
Is the PDF? All right. Nick Brozovic is an economist and with extensive experience in water policy and management. He joined the Doherty Water for Food Institute in July 2014. He is a policy research director. His presentation today is Innovations in High Plains Water Management Institution.